Welcome back to Fenrir Canine Training, and on this Q&A series we're answering your questions to help you become higher level canine leaders that can raise perfect canine companions. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you are new here, my name's Will. I'm a canine behaviourist and I'm the founder of FenrirCanineLeaders.com. This is my wonderful wife Rachel, and how this works is you've been asking her questions over on Instagram. She collates the questions, asks them to me, and hopefully we can help you in your journey to having a perfect canine companion. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the very first question.
Okay, so the first question is around puppy biting, and that is, how should my kids react when the puppy is nipping at their feet?
At their feet, because this is probably the hardest thing to have to deal with puppies. Having a puppy and a dog growing up with young children and growing up together is a beautiful experience, but having young children with a puppy that you're trying to train to be a good, perfect canine companion is an almost impossible task. The two things just don't go together. It's not an impossible task, it's a very difficult task, and it's a very counterproductive task. Your children are going to jeopardize your obedience. They're going to misuse commands. They're going to water down commands. They're going to set the dog up for failure. They're going to promote the wrong things.
You're not making this sound very good.
I'm making the point, though, that by making that decision to bring a puppy in with a young child, you're going to have a little bit more patience than you might be able to if it was just you or just adults in the home that can have that 100% disciplined and consistent joint approach. Now, with that being said, how your children should react is very difficult, and it depends on how old they are. They should react in exactly the same way that you should react, because regardless of their age, the dog should see everybody in the household as their calm, consistent leaders. Now, children very rarely are calm, they're very rarely consistent, and they very rarely have learnt the skills to be good leaders at this stage, which is where we have to come in and to enforce those things. So I always recommend never allowing the puppy and the children to have those kind of interactions on their own. The second the puppy ramps up, we need to put in a very stern verbal correction to mark instantly that what you're doing is not acceptable. We then need to redirect them to the acceptable behaviour, which might be chewing on a chew toy, it might be doing some obedience work, it might be just doing a sit and stay just to bring the energy levels down. And when we get to that stage, we then reinforce that desired behaviour. That is a difficult process because the children's energy, with it being a higher energy and kind of the opposite of calm, will naturally ramp a puppy up, and it's very difficult for a puppy to remain calm around that energy. So it's a very difficult thing. It's hard to give a one-track answer to because it's such a subjective, different, bespoke thing for every family. Yeah. But my advice is to never leave children unless you're very confident that they have the skill set in managing that exactly as you would manage that. Then you should never leave them alone with the puppy until you're confident that the puppy is old enough and has learnt how to behave appropriately around the children.
And you obviously speak to the children and tell them that you are the one that will step in, it's not for them to.
Yeah, you can definitely do it together, and it's good that the children should, because you want the children to be good leaders as well, and to do that then they have to be able to do the same things. It's just a very difficult thing to deal with, and you just need to slowly but surely, it's almost like you're training two things at the same time. You're training the children on how to behave with the puppy, and you're training the puppy on how to behave with the children, and it's just about, like the same thing I preach with the puppies, it's just about that consistent approach.
So making sure that if you're going to redirect the dog onto a toy, that the children have always got toys to hand that they can pass to the dog. And also, I think maybe not really for this question, but just in general, we talked about it on the last episode, is that if your children do want to play with the puppy, it's encouraged that isn't done in the same room where you want to relax.
Try and wherever possible to make play happen outside. If you've got a garden, that's where play occurs. And then whenever the dog's in the home, especially like in the living room where you want things to be calm and relaxed and for the dog to be well mannered, you have to ensure that your children are reinforcing that as well, which can be difficult because they're excited about a new puppy, but it's your responsibility to ensure that that happens both ways, puppy to the children and the children to the puppy. And again, if you just take that consistent approach, you will get there and you will get over these hurdles. But it's just one of those issues that can't and won't be solved overnight. It's an ongoing process of consistency and dedication to the task.
Someone has asked me a question.
Ooh, ask yourself a question.
I'm going to ask myself a question.
I'll sit back and enjoy the answer.
Rachel, do you dream of a stony farm in the States too? The answer to that is no.
You're going to have to elaborate on that. Just broke my heart and hopefully many viewers' hearts.
It's more the States option than the farm option. So I think that hopefully we will one day have like a big property and we'll have loads of dogs, and like you talk about a rehabilitation centre. I'm totally on board for that, but I just don't want to move to America. And it's nothing offensive, it's just, we live very close to both of our families, and I just couldn't imagine ever moving away from that. I think you would be more tempted.
Well, I love our families, but I would move tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully if my ambitions and goals of where we could take Fenrir in 10, 20 years come true, hopefully we might be able to have both in both sides. So we'll have the Fenrir Canine Centre and our farm where we live here, and then maybe we could have another one in America that people run, and then I can come between the two. That would be the best case dream scenario, and I'm working tirelessly every day to hopefully one day get to that point.
And he's working tirelessly to try and persuade me to move, but
chipping away one day at a time, guys. Maybe a few comments from you guys might help.
I have a very strong list of reasons and of what I would be looking for in the ideal location.
So no tornadoes, excellent weather,
no hurricanes,
no snow. Yeah, so lots of
not too hot, because I don't do heat either. No, yeah.
So my dream of a Texas ranch right now isn't necessarily
it's not on the cards.
Isn't on the cards. But like I say, maybe we could have two, and it can
unless he divorces me and he goes himself.
Next question. Let's do one more question before you divorce me.
When you talk about breeds that need experienced handlers, how do you get to become one of them? I think basically we get quite a lot of questions, and it's because when you do like your 101s and things, you'll say, oh, this isn't for first time owners. And I think what people are confused about is, okay, well, what is for first time owners then? And then at what point do you make that, okay, I've had X number of dogs, that now means I can own a...
So this is a very difficult question because it's not necessarily about the experience, and there's not a amount of dogs or time put in. For me, it's much more about your skill set as a high level canine leader. That's what I am looking for. Now, through a YouTube video, I can't, or through a question like that, I can't tell people whether they are at that stage or not. And it's not something I feel comfortable doing because I don't want for people to misunderstand what I'm saying, not be ready for a breed like that, and then to add to the statistics of breeds that are attacking children or getting put down. So it's something that's very close to my heart, and it's a thing that I take very seriously. I think the bigger overarching picture is about you must develop your skill set. There's some people that come into having a Connie Corso as their first dog or a Turkish Kangal, and they're very successful, but I can guarantee that those people have put
very dedicated
tons of time and often money involved into putting themselves around the right people to learn, read all the different books that are out there, have studied canine training and behaviour at length, and then go into it with maybe having someone like me as a kind of consultant and helping them along the process. And there's some people that have had 20 dogs and still aren't ready for a breed like that. So it's a very bespoke and subjective thing to be able to advise
so
on.
When you're talking about it, it's a generalization. You're not saying no, you shouldn't be allowed this if it's your first dog. It's not that. That is just a guidance of the type of skill level you need in order to have that dog.
Yeah 100%. And oftentimes for those higher bracket dogs, your Corsos, your Kangals, those kind of breeds, Dogo Argentinos, Pit Bulls, experience with other dogs is often very beneficial to you having that leadership, which is why I always recommend if you want a giant breed, go with a breed like a Newfoundland as your first dog. You get what it's like to live with a giant breed, but they're so much more forgiving, and you are going to make mistakes, but it's much better to make a mistake with a breed that's forgiving and more inclined to being gentle like that than it is to make a mistake with a breed like a Dogo or a Connie Corso. As much as I love the breed, it's get to that point, and again, there's no test that you can take. There's no
or be willing
sign off,
or be willing to invest in that from other people.
100%. And like I say, if you've got the money, you could have one. You could even, what some people will do is there's companies that will, you got to be very careful because people get scammed with this, but if you can find a really reputable company, is they will train a dog for you, and you could have a dog at 18 months old, 2 years old, that has been impeccably trained by world leading experts. And during that process, you go once a month to them and they educate you on what they're doing, why they're doing it, and handing that over to you so that then you can pick that up and run with it. And then maybe next time get a puppy and do it yourself. There is options, but it's just the level of commitment and dedication required is through the roof, and it's not something that I'm rarely
You don't
confident.
want to put your neck on the line on
It's not necessarily just putting my neck on the line it's more, I don't want those people to go through those things. I've seen how heartbreaking it is when people get them for the right reasons, they think they're going to be okay, and then their dog kills another dog, or their dog attacks a postman and the dog isn't, they're now going to court because their dog needs to get put down. Those things are heartbreaking, and oftentimes by the time they come to me, it's too late for me to be able to help. And I think when you've had that experience like I've had, it makes you a little bit more reluctant to want people to go through that. And again, it's something I could talk about for a long time, so we'll wrap it up there. Is that the last question for this episode? So if you've got any questions yourself that you want us to answer, I love these more deep ones, whether it's personal or a question like that that's kind of multi-layered, please feel free to ask them. Follow us over on Instagram, the link's down in the description box below. Once a week or so you put a story out, don't you, asking for questions, so you can ping your questions in there, and then Rachel collates them, and especially if ones keep coming up or if they're an interesting question, she'll ask them to me and we'll make these videos, and we're just going to keep doing these until you guys get sick of hearing us talk to you about the importance of being calm, consistent leaders. So no more waffle. Like the video if you did enjoy it, subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you on the next episode of Fenrir Canine Training.